대사관 강사 시리즈에 오신 것을 환영합니다. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Welcome to the 9th Embassy Speaker Series, and the last of its series celebrating the Year of Korea and the Year of the Korean War Veteran. Before we begin, please welcome Ambassador Cho Hee-yong for the opening remarks and to introduce our speakers today.
Good evening, Mr. Lee and Ms. Shulist, and honored Korean War veterans, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for your participation in the Embassy Speaker Series. And first, I'd like to express my personal deep gratitude for your interest in Korea and for support for the advancement of bilateral relations between our two countries. Now that we are nearing at the end of the year 2013, which is very special for both countries and both peoples. 2013 is the year of Korea in Canada and year of the Korean War veteran. To commemorate this historic momentum, double the milestone, the embassy has hosted the eighth speaker series. And please welcome Mr. Bill Black. Please join us.
The late Mr.
Yeah. Please. Yeah. Please, welcome. So to commemorate this very historic year, the embassy has hosted the 8th speaker series and to share the insights and perspectives of the Canada's dignitaries who have long been engaged in the relations between our two countries. Over the series, we have covered a wide range of topics dealing with Korea and Canada, from the Korean War to Korean food to Arctic cooperation. So through this series, we have garnered some wisdom and inspiration to further foster new opportunities for mutual cooperation and common grounds. It has been a great privilege to have been your hosts in this series. And tonight, I'm very pleased to present the 9th, the last chapter in this Embassy Speaker series, wrapping up this historic year. Well, as some of you may recall, that we began the series with a panel of the honored Korean War veterans. And as we all agree, the Canada's Korean War veterans have greatly been contributing to the development of Korea and to the forging the special partnership between our two countries. 60 years later, the grandchildren and children of the Canada's Korean War veterans are actively engaged in the relations between our two countries. Some of them are doing business and doing study in Korea, and some of them are teaching English to the Korean students. And also some of them have shared their forefathers' legacy with others of their same generation. I think that it is not only the grandchildren of the Korean War veterans who will, without doubt, play a great role in further cementing, further intensifying bilateral relations in the future. Well, since I came here July last year, I have found that there are countless Canadians who have already connection to Korea through families and through friends or through deep interests in Korea. Some of them are ready and eager to volunteer their time and efforts to further enhance public awareness about Korea and about the relations between our two countries. So through this year, our embassy has enjoyed a privilege to collaborate the Canadian friends to promote Korea and to promote the bilateral relations between our two countries. There are e-reporters to the embassy. They have contributed hundreds of writings on the 50th anniversary blog. In fact, I think that they are online spokesperson for the relations between our two countries. Taking advantage of this opportunity, I really appreciate their efforts to promote and to enhance the public awareness about the current relations between our two countries and future relations between our two countries. So I think that while Korean War veterans represents our shared past, it is our global citizens, like the grandchildren of the Korean War veterans and e-reporters, that represents our shared future. Well, today's topic, as you know, my perspective on Korea-Canada relations, the next 50 years and beyond. We are honored to have Mr. Lee and Ms. Shulist joining us tonight to share their experiences in Korea and views on the future of Korea-Canada relations. Mr. Hugh Lee immigrated to Canada from Korea at the age of 14. Throughout his youth, Mr. Lee volunteered as an English instructor and translator, serving both the Canadian and Korean communities where he lived. He now works as an international trade lawyer in Ottawa and volunteers his time as an e-reporter to the 50th anniversary blog of the embassy. Miss Merina is the granddaughter of Mr. Walter Conrad, Korean War veteran, now who is present with you. She is currently a student in the International Studies and Mother Language program at the University of Ottawa and participated in the peace camp for youth in South Korea 2 years ago. I'm sure we will all be greatly inspired by their presentation as we reflect on the next chapter of Korea-Canada relations. Well, once again, thank you very much for your presence here tonight, and I'd like to invite Mr. Lee as a first speaker. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to first thank you all very much for coming tonight. It's been very cold and chilly winter, and it's been very difficult for me to drag myself here, so thank you all. And of course, thank you to the embassy for organizing this very special night. As I was introduced by Ambassador Cho, my name is Hugh Lee, and I'll be your lead panelist tonight. But let me first introduce you to Merina, who's going to be my co-panelist. Merina is, as already introduced by Ambassador Cho once again, is a granddaughter of a Korean War veteran. And of course, that makes her one of the closest to the genesis of the modern Korea-Canada relationship today. In 2011, as also mentioned, she joined a peace camp for youth and visited Korea. Some of you may be aware of what the peace camp is. I personally was not until I was introduced by Merina, and I was fascinated by it, so don't let me ruin it anymore, and stay tuned for it. Also wanted to mention that Merina also spoke about the peace camp before the Senate, and also she is a recipient of numerous distinguished and highly respected awards. I'll just name one, which is Queen's Diamond Jubilee that she just won in 2013. And as for myself, I'm not as excited, but I'm speaking here tonight because somebody told me at the embassy that there's going to be a free dinner tonight. Thank you, embassy. And of course, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding about the free dinner part. There is going to be dinner at 7. And all you have to do, based on what I understand, is you just have to sit and listen while we actually have to speak. So it's a deal. Jokes aside, I am really an ordinary Canadian. And I have so many hats on my head, just like so many of you, if not all of you. But first and foremost, I'm a father of 2. And I'm a husband. And I'm also a son. In my professional life, as I was introduced once again, I'm a lawyer, and I specialize in international trade and investment matters. But I think that most importantly for tonight, I'm here as a Korean Canadian. And when the embassy first approached me and proposed that I make this speech tonight, I, of course, didn't really ask myself too many questions, and I readily accepted it because it is a great and tremendous honor. But as a matter of fact, I actually had to keep myself for the next few days because it was a tremendous challenge for me to come up with this speech. And the reason is this. You've heard, and you know it's on the brochure and invitation, that topic tonight is Korea-Canada relationship, next 50 years and beyond. It's a very big and large topic. And I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person can't really keep track of which week I'm supposed to be recycling plastic versus paper. So obviously for me, next 50 years, let alone the beyond part, is a very, very big topic. So what I started doing naturally was pulling out data, graphs, tables, and things like that. And I also read some academic journals, try to impress you with abbreviations and smart lingos. And I thought maybe I'll create like an Excel spreadsheet or even like a PowerPoint presentations. Unfortunately, I've done neither, except for that little handout, or which was supposed to be a little handout that is in front of you. And funny enough, all the time I was thinking, and all the time I was agonizing, almost, in a sense, to come up with this speech. I realized that I was doing this while I was talking to my wife, who's, by the way, Korean by citizenship in the Korean language. And I was doing it while I was eating Korean food. And I was doing it while I was watching Korean TV shows and listening to Korean music. And in those moments, it hit me that for me, and by the way, I'm a Canadian, a member of this dynamic and exciting multicultural society, that for me, Korea is a very special country. And then I also realized that for many other Canadians, for the same reason, or maybe for different reasons, that Korea is a special country. We're like natural fit, that such as the positive attracts the negatives. And from this perspective, what I thought was that what we must do is that we have to recognize that Korea and Canada are partners naturally by our very nature. It's in our genes or it's in our DNA. And of course, take this natural fit to the next level and try to make it stronger for the next 50 years. So now the question is, what makes this relationship such a special relationship? A natural fit, that is. If you start with numbers, once again, there are almost 200 countries in this world, over 7 billion people in this world. So it's like going into a Walmart to get a bag of potato chip, and you're standing in front of the entire aisle filled with different types and kinds of potato chips. So what makes Canada, or lack of better words, or choose Korea? Well, first of all, if you ask me, and once again, I'm a Canadian, a member of this great nation, but if you ask me, it's a very easy question because I really don't have a choice. Let me give you an example. You could have an Iron Chef of Canada cook me for every day, but it's just in the nature of me that I have to get out there and get kimchi or Korean instant noodle once in a while. And of course, when it comes to picking my vacation, I really don't have any choice because all my in-laws live in Korea. And for all of you tonight whose in-laws in another country, try telling your wife that you're going to go to Vegas for this vacation. It simply doesn't work. And the funny thing is, and amazing thing is, as a matter of fact, is that there are over 200,000 Korean people living in Canada. Some are like me, many aren't so like me, but still, 200,000 Korean people here in Canada. And to put this number in the context, that's as many people as the city of Regina, a capital city of a Canadian province. And if you're to look at the other side of the Pacific Ocean, there are over 25,000 Canadian people living in Korea. And of course, for these people, and for all of us in Canada, Korea is a very special country. It's not just another bag of potato chip in the grocery store. And for all of us Canadians in Korea, Canada is, of course, a very special country because it's our home. And for these people, once again, the Canadians and the Koreans living in each other, Korea-Canada relationship is not an accident. It is not a coincidence, and it is not even a choice, but it is what makes us. It is part of us. And so we have to be connected. And of course, there is history. The Korean War, or so to speak, the genesis of the modern Korea-Canada relationship. And it's been 60 years since the armistice, but it is extremely hard to forget if it is possible at all. And for those who might have forgotten, once again, I'll start with numbers. The Economist 2012 Democracy Index puts Korea as the most democratic country in the Pacific Asia. We're ranked even higher than America. And the World Bank puts Korea as the 15th largest economy in the entire world. And the World Trade Organization says that Korea is the 7th largest export or merchandise exporter in the world. To sum it up, and I'm just quoting the Canadian Foreign Affairs, the living standards and education levels of Korea today are equivalent to, or even higher than, industrialized Western economies. And of course, if you really know what Korea is like and looks like today, you can just forget about all these numbers and just remind yourself of what it is really like in Korea. And of course, this place, where Korea is right now, is an admirable place. And it is this stability, democracy, freedom, and the prosperity that enabled my parents and for me to be here with you tonight in Canada. And once again, it is those that made all of us Korean Canadians and Koreans to be where we are today. And of course, we realize, and I think we have to realize, that this stability, this freedom and this prosperity came at a price. It came at a price of sacrifices of many brave Canadian men and women. And these sacrifices are too honorable for me to try to describe it in my words, but all I'll say is that as a free man born in Korea, I thank you to the veterans. And especially for my two kids, I thank you the most. But that is not the end of it, though. As a Canadian, of course, I'm most proud of what my country did, but at the same time, I'm extremely proud of what Korea did. That is, our fathers and grandfathers' sacrifices in Korea lit the light in Korea. Lit the light of the values and the principles that we Canadians hold so close to our hearts, and that really defines us and that identifies us. And after 60 years, we Canadians know that our sacrifices made a difference, and that our values, democratic and free society, has been and will always be in the good hands of the Korean people. And that for this, our sacrifices have not been lost. And lastly, for why I think the Korea-Canada relationship is a natural fit, is our economies. And this is something that touches upon my life and your life at least once or twice a day, if not many multiples of times on any given day. And the reason is this. If you look at my handout, it's summarizing those many pages. In 2012, Korea was the 7th most popular destination of Canadian exports in the world. What that means is that in 2012, we Canada exported more products to Korea than we've exported to countries like Germany, France, Brazil, India, and Italy. And in the same year, Korea was the 7th largest source of imports into Canada. And what that means is that we've imported more from Korea than we've imported from countries like France, Brazil, India, and Italy. And of course, once you take a look at the details of those trade data, you really understand and appreciate that this relationship is a relationship of partnership. Partnership of two nations that by and large complement, not compete with each other. Unfortunately, it doesn't take a big Excel spreadsheet or analysis to understand this, although I have those summaries of the statistics in the handout. But all you've got to really do is get out there and look around you. Here in Canada, get out there and look around all this vast and blessed Canadian terrain and the resources. And take a look around hardworking, highly educated Canadian people in charge of sustainable and responsible use of those resources. And of course, if you're in Seoul, you just need to get out in the middle of Seoul and take a look around at any given time on any day, and you'll see a flow of highly educated, motivated, adventurous, entrepreneur, young people. It's like we provide supplies, so to speak. We provide fresh ingredients to the Korean businesses. And the Korean business people pick them up, turn around, and makes a nice dinner for us. Of course, we'll have to pay. But. Or to put it in another way, we Canadians help Korea so that Korea can help us in return. And of course, Korea helps us, which enables us to help them back. So these economies, and what I mean by economies is the people, and it's the nature that was given to us by the Mother Earth that puts us together as partners, and that puts us together in a relationship that, with cooperation, with relationship and partnership, makes each other better. And how do these numbers actually relate to you? If you take me, for example, I'm a trader, as I said, a significant portion, a chunk of my work is related to the Korean businesses here in Canada. And you can say exactly the same thing for so many of my friends who are working for Canadian and Korean companies dealing with each other. And you just need to go back to your home and start counting how many Samsungs, LGs, or Hyundais you actually own. And I bet you, even if you don't see any one of those big brand names, Made in Korea is part of your life, inside your TV, inside your cell phone, or inside your laptop. So what I can tell you tonight, from my experience and from my reflection of my experience, is that Korea and Canada are natural partners, that we have this special bond together. And it is because of the Koreans and Canadians living in each other, and it is because of our shared history, and it is because of our symbiotic economies. And I think we have done so well over the past 50 years. I think we have made ourselves better selves through a strong partnership and a relationship. And I think for this, in 2013, we are celebrating, and for this, we're celebrating tonight. Not simply because the number 50 is somehow neat, or not just because the number 50 is somehow symbolic, but it is because we have accomplished so much together. And of course, today we have two paths. We have paths for the better, or we have for worse. And for the better, we have to at least safeguard the strength in our relationship and try to make it stronger. I think this burden lies on me, and this burden also lies on you, the Korean Canadians and the Canadians in Korea. We have to embrace our culture and heritage. We have to bring the positive elements of our culture and heritage from both countries and try to make yourself better, thereby try to make your community better in which you live in right now. Importantly, don't run away from your culture and heritage. Be a proactive ambassador and think what good it can do for you, and once again, thereby the community that you live in. And let us also encourage our economies to communicate and talk to each other better. As I mentioned, I believe that our economies are natural partners, and they'll build stronger partnership if you let them be. That said, there are more that we can do to make the process faster and make that partnership stronger. And for this, I congratulate Korea and Canada for they have restarted their negotiations for the FTA this year, and also for Korea showing a serious interest in joining TPP, to which Canada is a participant already. But lastly, but also most importantly, you have to remind yourself why you're here and how we got here, and how Korea is where it is today. But at the same time, how as Canadians able to safeguard our fundamental values and principles and our identity unbroken for this long period of time. And do not let your children forget this, that Korea and Canada are not just two countries, they're grocery shopping countries. That we fought together and that we sacrificed together for what we believe in together. That concludes my speech. Thank you all very much for listening. Now you'll hear from Merina. As I spoke briefly in the introduction, she'll talk to you about the peace camp that she participated in 2011 and how that experience connected her, or more like how it enabled her to find her connection again to this genesis of the Korea-Canada relationship. So please welcome Merina. Thank you.
Like Hugh said, I'm going to be speaking more specifically about my experiences in Korea with the 2011 Peace Camp. The photos that you'll be hearing behind me are in absolutely no particular order, I promise. I'm very happy to be sharing my experiences in South Korea when I was there as part of the Peace Camp for Youth. I had a great time and I love to tell people about it, but I'm also especially pleased to be speaking about it this year since we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Korean War Armistice and the year of the Korean War veteran here in Canada. So, like they said, in 2011 I was selected to be one of the Canadian participants at the Peace Camp for Youth in Seoul. The Peace Camp is actually a continuation of a program that was put in place for Korean veterans. The veterans were brought back to Korea so that they could be thanked and could be shown how much the country had recovered and grown since the end of the Korean War, how much the country had changed as a result of their actions. My grandfather, retired Major Walter Conrad, returned to Korea through this program, and it was amazing to hear him talk about how much he enjoyed Korea, seeing it under better circumstances and seeing how much it had changed. From what I can tell, the program had a huge impact on him because before he went back, all of his memories were of a war zone, and now he has new memories of a vibrant, flourishing country. So I'd like to thank Korea for giving that back to my grandfather and the other Korean veterans. The process of dialogue is now continued by educating and connecting the grandchildren of the Korean War veterans. The goals of the Peace Camp, taken from their guidebook, are to thank and honor the sacrifice and devotion of the Korean War veterans who put themselves in harm's way for the noble cause of safeguarding peace and freedom in a distant, unknown nation, to assure that freedom and democracy should be valued with priority, to better understand the significance of the Korean War, and to strengthen mutual understanding and cooperation in promoting peace and security on the Korean Peninsula and more broadly for a peaceful world in the 21st century by inheriting the indomitable valor and noble sacrifice of the Korean War veterans. If you didn't get all of that, it's okay. I'll be summarizing it later. So as you might have noticed from the goals of the Peace Camp, the camp is intended not only to allow us, the grandchildren, an opportunity to honor our grandparents and their colleagues and to learn more about their experiences in Korea, but also to take lessons from their bravery, their courage, their cooperation, and their sacrifice, and to take advantage of the ties that they forged while they were in Korea. When I was in Korea, there were 76 participants in the camp from 11 of the different UN peacekeeping countries. There was Korea, Canada, the US, the UK, Turkey, Philippines, Thailand, Colombia, New Zealand, Belgium, and France. During the camp itself, we were shown many different aspects of Korea, the different people and forces that had shaped the nation. And I was astonished at the number of activities and events that they managed to fit into the 5 days that we were there. It was exhausting. We visited the Historical Palace in Seoul, the National Folk Museum. We were taught the traditional ceremony for greeting the New Year, and we got to try on traditional costumes. We painted masks and were taught a traditional mask dance, after which our instructor showed us the complete dance with the lion character, and they did a much better job than we ever could. We also went shopping in Insaidong, saw a b-boy musical, visited an aquarium, sang karaoke, and ate a lot of delicious food. But as enjoyable and fascinating as it was to tour Korea and to learn about the culture, there was also a serious aspect to our visit, and it was never far from our minds. We were constantly aware of the sacrifice required to preserve the Korea that we encountered. Several presentations were offered to us on the topic of the Korean War and the events following it. One of them was given to us by a man who had defected from North Korea. It was amazing listening to him talk about the extreme differences between North and South Korea, the lengths that he had gone to escape North Korea, and how much his life had changed after arriving in South Korea. The camp held memorial services at the Seoul National Cemetery, the War Memorial of Korea, and the UN Memorial Cemetery, which is the only cemetery of its kind in the world. It was incredibly humbling to see all of the graves in the Memorial Cemetery to see all of the names of the fallen soldiers written on plaques and walls at the various memorials. There were so many names from so many different countries, and many of those soldiers were the same age as participants in the camp. One of the most vivid experiences for me was visiting the demilitarized zone. Going in, I had expected a rather desolate area, concrete, steel, dirt, very little vegetation. And it was a surprise to me to see the quantity and the lushness of all of the plants that were growing in the area. Trees, bushes, grass in this gorgeous bright green. I suppose it could be seen as sort of a representation of the determination and success of the South Korean people to rebuild and thrive after the devastation of war. But being inside the joint security area itself was surreal. It's a highly secured area with a huge military presence, and because of the tension, there's sort of a hum of energy and alertness in the air. But it's so quiet. When our guide wasn't speaking, we could hear the different birds and insects that lived in the area. We were under armed escort at all times, and we've been given strict instructions, complete with a signed waiver saying I agree to obey all of these rules, so that we didn't cause any incidences. But it was a stark reminder for us, beyond any joke, that the conflict between the North and the South is still ongoing, and that the Korean War ended with a ceasefire and not a peace agreement. It impressed upon me also the distance left to go and the dedication that will be required to ensure peace on the peninsula. Many people since then have asked me if we saw any North Korean guards while we were in the demilitarized zone, and while we all assumed that we were being watched, we didn't actually see any of them until we got back in the tour bus and started going through our photos. And when you zoomed in on our photos, you could see a North Korean guard peeking at us from around a pillar using a pair of binoculars. It was an eerie revelation. I had an amazing time at the peace camp learning about the Korean War, but I also learned a lot about the Korean people. The level of hospitality that we experienced and the gracious nature of the people that we encountered was astonishing. This is also evident in the event hosted tonight by the embassy and in the series of presentations that they have posted all year. Thank you for that. In Korea, every effort was made to ensure that we were comfortable and that we knew what was going on. When we were in Korea, it rained a lot. We later found out that it was the most rain that Seoul had had in 100 years. So consequently, there were several changes to our schedule due to weather. No dinner on the riverboat, no swimming at the beach. But we were always told that alternate arrangements had been made. That's not supposed to happen. I'm supposed to have a head in that photo. But they always told us that what new events had been scheduled and how it was going to impact the rest of the day. We were guided or escorted to all of our events, and they were always available for questions afterwards, even if we weren't specifically at an event. We were all picked up from the airport, even me. My travel arrangements had been messed up, so rather than arriving at a reasonable hour with the rest of the Canadian participants, I arrived by myself at 4 in the morning. I was so thankful to have someone there waiting to pick me up. It's the best thing that happened to me all day. We were also escorted back to the airport on our way home, and someone stayed with us right up until the security checkpoint where they aren't allowed to go any further unless they have an airplane ticket. And this was all done to make sure that we didn't encounter any problems before we left. I was also struck by the incredible respect for the past that we saw in Korea, from the care given to maintaining the cemeteries to the memorial ceremonies that we participated in, to even the educational aspect of the camp itself. It was evident everywhere we went. But it was not just a respect for the past and for the Korean veterans, but there was also a profound gratitude for what our grandparents had done. Everywhere we went, we were thanked. Museum guides, presenters, even our escorts at the demilitarized zone, they all thanked us, not for anything that we had done, but what for our grandparents had done for them. It was particularly moving because it was not just the adults or individuals who were alive during the Korean War who thanked us, but it was youth that were the same age as us that were also thanking us. It was amazing to see that the sacrifice, that the actions of our grandparents resonated just as strongly with the youngest generation as it does with the oldest. I truly hope that the rest of us can learn from the respect and gratitude shown in Korea to the veterans and do the same in our home. I also saw a great hope for the future and a determination to make it the best possible. Despite still not having peace on the Korean peninsula, South Koreans keep hoping for peace, not only on the peninsula, but around the world. But they do more than hope. They try to make it happen. Instead of just bringing the Korean veterans to thank them and leaving it at that, which they could have done, they started peace camps. Peace camps, not Korean war veterans' grandchildren camps. The emphasis was not on the past, although it is important to know our past so that we can understand where we are. But the emphasis was also on the future and taking what we can from the past, from our grandparents' actions in South Korea, and using it to make our future better, respecting each other and helping to protect each other through means other than a war. I feel that the camp and its organizers were very forward-thinking, choosing to connect and educate the youth, the grandchildren of the Korean War veterans. It's important to keep the stories and history alive. Forgetting our past is poor thanks for all those who sacrificed so much. The camp gave us a chance to learn about history in a very real way. It was not just world history or even our own country's history, but for us, it was our family history. It was where our grandparents went and what they did. It's not like learning out of a textbook. These are real people that we know that did things in real places that we visited. I treasure the knowledge that this experience gave me, and I know the other participants did too. The diversity of participants too at the camp was one of the other things that I really appreciated. Like I said earlier, there were 11 different countries represented at my camp. It could have been arranged so that only one country at a time would be hosted, but the organizers decided to host many countries at the same event. By interacting with other participants, I was able to expand my awareness of the scope of the Korean War and also my general understanding of other countries. But I also realized how small a world we actually live in. The participants were from different countries, but we all had so much in common other than being the grandchildren of Korean War veterans. Through the camp, I was able to meet and interact at the same time with people from 10 different countries, which is much more than I would have ever been able to arrange or manage on my own. That was another thing that I noticed and admired while I was in Korea. Korea has a great desire and a talent for initiating and improving relations. They have a strong desire to teach, learn, and work with others. But as I saw in the camp, they do not limit it to, say, Korea-Canada or Korea-US relations. They also facilitate improvement or the formation of relations between countries, even if they aren't part of the direct relationship. And, as far as I can tell, they enjoy facilitating these relationships, if the enthusiasm with which they presented our icebreaker games on our first night was any indication. The emphasis that the coordinators put on getting to know the participants from other countries was also important. Our roommates were never from the same country, and they mixed us up very well on the different tour buses. But it seemed to me to be a continuation of the value that was demonstrated by our grandparents when they went to South Korea. This value being the importance of looking beyond our own borders. Our grandparents, the Korean veterans, went across an ocean to protect total strangers from a danger that did not threaten them directly because they believed it was right. They showed us the importance of looking beyond our own borders and working with other nations. The international cooperation is inspiring, and when I was in South Korea, I was privileged to see a small example of the continued international cooperation inspired by our grandparents, the Korean War veterans, such as helping one participant find the gravestone of one of her grandfather's comrades so that she could lay a cross, or multiple people translating a conversation through multiple languages so that everyone in the tour bus could understand what was going on. It emphasizes to me that we are living in a continually shrinking world. We are becoming more reliant on each other, and as a result, we need to remember to take care of our global neighbors, a cause which our Korean veterans took up, and one that Korea has continued to encourage. I feel incredibly privileged to have been selected to participate in the peace camp and to have learned so much about Korea, the Korean War, and the other participants. It was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I hope that Korea and Canada continue to work together to maintain and build the relationship, because there is so much more to share and teach. A respect for the past, a hope for the future, a determination to make the future better, a respect for each other and for other countries, links with other countries, and a desire to make our world a better place. I also hope that the Korea-Canada relationship continues so that other youth, maybe even my brothers, can have the opportunity to go to Korea like I did, an opportunity to be immersed in culture, history, information, and develop a newfound appreciation for our role in our world, the dedication and sacrifice it has taken to get us to where we are today, and the work that will be required for the journey tomorrow. And I'm very glad to know that we will not have to make that journey alone. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lee and Ms. Shulist, for the wonderful presentation. We really appreciate it. And at this time, we'll move on to a Q&A session. If you have any questions for our speakers today, please raise your hand. Or if you have any comments to make about the presentations, you're also welcome to provide us or share us your thoughts.
We only want good comments. If you have bad ones, you can tell us later.
So please raise your hand if you have any questions, and one of us will be glad to make that trip for you. If you can introduce yourself, that'd be great too.
Hello, I'm Merina's dad, and she got in late Sunday night, or was it Monday morning at 4? But she left Ottawa without a plane ticket because a plane was canceled. Do you want to finish this story? Because it's a great story.
Sure. Is this on? Or I can just yell. Working? Working? Okay. So I was initially supposed to fly from Ottawa to Washington, Washington to Tokyo, and then meet up with the rest of the Canadian delegates in Tokyo and then fly into Seoul. When I arrived in Ottawa, the flight to Washington had been canceled, and I ended up flying from Ottawa to LaGuardia Airport in New York, taking a shuttle from LaGuardia Airport to JFK Airport in New York again, and then flying directly from JFK to Seoul, Korea, getting in at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had flown the entire thing with no itinerary, no plane ticket, and I was yelled at by a New York taxi cab driver. I was so glad to see the camp delegates waiting for me with a sign, because I had no idea where I was supposed to be going or how I was going to get there.
I have a question for you, Merina, if you don't mind. The reason why I was so fascinated by the Peace Camp was because I felt that it was, building on the past that we have, something that young people may forget, and sort of reminding them of what the foundation of this relationship is all about. So I'd like to hear from you what your impression was before you went into the Peace Camp of Korea. Like, how much familiar were you, or was Korea, did it have any particular tone to you?
I didn't know a lot about it. Most of what I knew about Korea and the Korean War I got from my grandfather. So from him I knew it's a very friendly country. Had gone through a lot, suffered a lot of devastation in the war. And then when he came back from his trips, I got to see pictures of how it had rebuilt. So I got to compare those to the ones that he had from during the war. But I didn't have a lot of preconceptions. So it was a nice surprise. I was happy to see it lived up to the reputation that my grandfather built for it.
I have a question. I invited the microphone. To introduce myself, my name is Steve Hong, and this is a question to Mr. Lee. I'm also 1.5 generation Korean Canadian, so it was really fascinating to hear your story. Just my question to you is, in your everyday lives, at your work, how are you working as a bridge between the two countries, and also, in greater detail, like how your job as an international lawyer is benefiting both countries?
It's a bit of a tough question because the work that I do a lot of it is confidential. And I have to admit that, I'm not always working for like a Korean company or the Korean government. Some of my work may relate to work that is adverse to Korea or the Korean companies. But my take is this. Korea and Canada are both sort of meat power countries, and they're the countries that have the most to gain from the rules-based international relations, so that the powerfuls don't bully them around, and those who don't have much of a, stake in the international relations can get around or ignore the rules altogether. So Korea and Canada are sort of like the meat power countries that have the most to gain from the rules-based international system that we have right now. So I take it from that perspective, and I take a very legal perspective, try to follow the rules, and whether it is Korea or Canada or whoever else for that matter, try to execute whatever that is given to us by the treaties and whatnot.
Any other questions or comments?
Is there an international trade agreement with Korea based on the size of imports and exports? It sounds as if there is.
There is a negotiation that is going on right now. It started in 2005, I believe, and it was suspended in 2008 for various reasons. Has just been started renegotiating this year. And of course, Korea and Canada are both parties to the World Trade Organization, which is a worldwide round. So they're parties to that. And I believe that Korea and Canada used to have a procurement contract or the treaty in telecommunication procurement sectors, but I think that treaty has lapsed a couple of years ago, I believe. And obviously, Canada and Korea are treaties or parties to treaties in other than trade sectors in many other different areas, in many other different treaties. I can't really think of it on the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, my point is that Korea and Canada are familiar faces in the international forums, usually shoulder to shoulder, supporting, by and large, similar positions.
Since I have this, I have just another question because the living standards are so high in Korea, comparable obviously to Canada. Are you finding that newcomers to Canada eventually go back to Korea, whether for an intermittent period of time, or they eventually go back to Korea? Is there a back and forth migration? Just because the two countries seem so comparable.
Yeah, of course, but I would not say that there is a definite trend, but this is all about the personal situation that you're in. Like you said, Korean economy offers jobs or opportunities that are equivalent to or sometimes even better than what is being offered here, and sometimes it is true for the Canada as well. So, for example, for me, I'm staying here because I had a job offer and I got married here and my kids were born here. But for some other people with different personal circumstances, they might choose to live in Korea. But what I'll tell you is that there isn't a divide between Korea and Canada. Like people in my generation, they think Korea and Canada as a seamless a place. Of course, there are going to be adjustments in your lifestyles a little bit here and there, but there is no person that I have met personally that says, that no to Korea or that no to Canada. Like, they'll all think of it as two sort of seamless society.
Yes, another question from Ms. Shulist. Father?
It's actually a thank you, because one of the greatest exports that Korea has given us is Taekwondo. And Merina and her twin brothers conducted training in Taekwondo in their youth. And from a master from Greece, so another worldwide collection. And we want to thank you for the training that Taekwondo provided. The training and the discipline of Taekwondo is this wonderful export, so thank you.
I'll personally return the thank you for the Canadian Goose jacket. So the news this morning that it has been almost all sold out in Korea. So thank you guys for keeping us warm.
Natural partners. Yes, another question from Mr. Bill Black.
Well, thank you. I see a lot of young people here this evening. How many have been to Korea? Raise your hand if you've been to Korea. Grandchild? Grandchildren? You're not a grandchild. Grandchild. I've got 2 here. I was supposed to have 4. Where are the other? You've got more young people here. How did you get here?
We're part of the U Ottawa Model UN delegation that's going to be representing the Republic of Korea in New York.
Oh yeah, I'm with you.
Oh, very nice. Wasn't that a great presentation by Merina and Hugh? I have a question for Hugh.
Sure.
Where do you think we're going with North and South Korea in the next, say, 10 years? Do you have any? Can you forecast what is in store at all?
I'll start by telling you that, first of all, I don't have much of an insight in that issue, but my general reunification is going to happen sooner or later. It's a matter of time, but it is a matter of whether it's going to take 100 years from now, or 200 years from now, or 50 years from now. So next 10 years, where exactly we'll be, I don't know. But I think whichever direction that we'll be going, I think it's going to be a positive direction and direction moving forward.
Since we already introduced our Model UN team who will be representing Korea in New York, do you have any thoughts to share with us regarding your representation of Korea next May?
No. Oh. Well, I think I can say on behalf of everyone in my class that we're very excited to have been invited here, and we're very thankful for the opportunity, and we are hoping to learn as much as possible about Korea in the coming weeks and months, so we can represent to you to our best abilities in March. So, yeah, we're very excited. I didn't come in knowing very much about Korea, and I feel like I have a better understanding now. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck. So if there aren't any more questions or comments, we will now wrap up with a presentation of a plaque of appreciation for our 2 speakers today for their time. The Shulist first.
Thank you. You're very handsome. You're really handsome. Thank you.
One together.
Bring your time.
On the camera. Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. Yes. Sorry about that. So thank you for all for joining us tonight. We prepared some evaluation surveys that we would like you to fill out. And this concludes our Embassy Speaker Series for the Year of Korea and the Year of the Korean War Veteran. So please join us in the hall for the dinner reception. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, and please have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you very much for everything.